sprinkler, meaning.
How does the DA documentation, you're referring to the various documentation available for regarding DA, how does it help me succeed quicker?
Yeah, so the basic idea is, so it depends on your level of expertise, right? So the more expert you are, the less help you're going to need generally. So it works in a detailed, from a high level to a detailed manner. So the basic idea is, you're in a retrospective, you identify, hey, we've got a problem with the way we're gathering requirements or exploring requirements with their stakeholders, whatever the issue is, right? So then if you happen to have like a business analyst on staff or like on your team or somebody who's an expert at requirement stuff, then more than likely, you've got a pretty good shot at identifying a technique to experiment with, because they'll just say, well, wait a minute. Yes, in this situation, I've done this before, and that seemed to work out well. I tried that, and that didn't work out so well, but I think this is going to work. So let's experiment with that. But let's say that's not the case for you, right? Because you don't have all the expertise in the world on any given team.
Yeah.
So then you dive down to the next level, which is what we call a goal diagram, which is basically a decision tree. So the idea with goal diagrams is that they say, so when you're exploring scope, here are the 10 issues or whatever I don't know what the number is, but whatever the number is, here's the 10 issues you really want to consider. Now, some of those decisions, as I said, have already been made for you, and you're probably only struggling right now with one or two. So for example, how are we exploring data stuff? Might be the, we get this, we don't really have a clue about the data things. So then you go to the list of potential ways to look at data-oriented requirements. Now, if you have reasonable expertise at data stuff, then more than likely that it's basically a checklist at that point, and that's enough, right? Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, logical data models. That we should be doing a logical data model. Yeah, why didn't I remember that? Or you look at those going, I don't know anything about data. So then you go down the next level of detail, which is basically a table of information where, so of the 7 techniques that were listed, there's a paragraph description for each one. And there's also a list of trade-offs. So there's just enough information for you to get an understanding of what that technique is all about. There's also, and then for a lot of people, that's enough. But if not, then there's also references, go off and read this book, read this article, watch this video, whatever you're into, right? So, and so you just keep drilling down to the level of detail until you get to a point where, oh yeah, that's enough information for me to, and the team looks and goes, yeah, let's experiment with that technique, logical data modeling, because that sounds like it's going to work for us in our situation. So here's the value prop, right? So instead of you just running into a problem and then, just stumbling about in the dark, trying to, what should we experiment? Well, why don't we try sticky notes? I don't know. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? If you've got no clue, then it's not, you're in trouble, right? Like and if you just happen to, be able to Google it and then find out, and if you know the terms to Google on, and if you can sift through, the thousands of things you're going to get, then maybe you'll be able to stumble into it yourself. But more than likely, no, right? So what's going to happen is, if you really don't understand this aspect of your process, then you will identify something and try to experiment with it, and more than likely you're going to fail, right? And this is where all the fail fast nonsense starts to kick in, right? And sure, failing fast is way better than failing slowly. Like I'll give everybody that one.
Or failing big, yeah.
Or failing big, yeah. But failing is still failing, right? So if I could just be a little bit smarter about identifying, let's experiment with this technique and reduce the chance of failure, then we succeed faster. We succeed more often, and as a result, we improve faster, and we improve. It's cheaper and faster that way.
And DA can do that. In DA, we can pinpoint the issue, and DA will offer alternatives based on your context, based on the situation, with trade-offs and pluses and minuses. And then
that's exactly it, right? So you can make better decisions, and that. Yeah. So, and the basic premise is, if you have just a little humility to understand that more than likely the problems you're facing right now have been faced by thousands of teams before you and addressed successfully, then you can leverage their learnings if you know how to find them, if you know how to choose between them. And that's where, but you don't, unless you're very experienced, You just don't have the background to make those decisions. But that's the assumption that everybody wants to make, right? So I got to question that assumption, because it doesn't hold water in practice. So DA helps to fill in the blanks, helps to fill in the blanks of your knowledge by helping you give those choices in a reasonably consumable manner. Now you still got to do a little bit of reading and
experimenting also.
Yeah, like anything, right? Like, but at least it's going to get you going in the right direction, which is way better than if you're flailing about by yourself.